Firstly, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to join this webinar. Today, Gijs and I are excited to explore this month's webinar topic, which is all about how company and product footprints are linked and why you need both. So before we kind of dive into the topic, a quick introduction to Gijs and myself. I'll go first. I'm Charlie, nice to meet you all. I'm the Sustainability Manager here at Root. Before Root, I worked as a sustainability consultant for over 4 years, and I've also worked in-house at Amazon. So I've supported over 80 companies on their sustainability journeys by helping companies create and implement sustainability strategies, certify as B Corps, and use life cycle assessment to create impact in their businesses. Just going to pass over to you guys for a quick intro.
Yes, so my name is Gijs de Mol, very Dutch name. So I've actually a very technical background. I started as a mechanical engineer. Then I thought, okay, am I going to build robots or am I going to do something else? I want to do something with more purpose. So then I switched to sustainability, and then I got in contact with life cycle assessment, and there my geeky mathematical brain got to work with Excel sheets while I was making impact. So that was actually a perfect fit for me. Then I was working at Philips. At Philips, we used lifecycle assessment for almost 25 years. We did it for both corporate footprinting and product footprinting, but I noticed there was a lot of problems with scalability with the old software solutions like the SEMA Pros of the LCA. And then I decided, okay, there are a lot of things I think can be better. So I quit and then founded Root roughly 2.5 years ago. And we're on a mission. We have been automating lifecycle assessment at scale by linking with existing management systems and automating it. And in this way, that's also the topic of this webinar. You can have product granularity. So you have the product LCA approach, but also at the same time, you have the holistic corporate footprint that's needed for both an holistic insight, but also for reporting purposes. And let's leave it at that. Otherwise, I'm talking for an hour.
Yes, we'll definitely deep dive into all of what Gijs you just mentioned. So before we kind of jump into kind of the conversation part between the both of us, I've got a few slides just to give a quick introduction to who Root is before. So I'm just checking. Can everybody see my screen now? Is it good?
Yes.
Perfect. Cool. So what we will be covering in this webinar, we'll be covering a couple of topics. Firstly, as mentioned, I'll be giving a quick introduction to who Root is. And then Gijs and I, we'll have an informal discussion focusing on what company and product footprints are, what is the link between them, and lastly, why you need both for a robust sustainability strategy and to future-proof your business. So this will kind of take us to around kind of 40 past, and then this will give us with lots of time for questions at the end. If you have any questions, feel free to add them in the chat, or feel free to write them down in the chat, or you can ask them in the Q&A at the end. So firstly, an introduction to Root. Root is a collaborative platform that collects the right data, gains insight into, and improves the lifecycle impacts of all products within companies. As Gijs mentioned, our vision is to redefine the norm by making product footprints universal, and we are on a mission to create automated LCA for large product portfolios, which is made easy for everyone. So, sustainability teams with large product portfolios need access to scalable LCAs for a number of reasons. Firstly, compliance with regulations like the Green Claims Directive, CSRD, and CSDDD is not optional. Companies need to report effectively on these frameworks to avoid greenwashing and to avoid severe fines and issues with reputational risk. Also, meeting LCAs are essential to meet transparency demands from stakeholders like investors and retailers, and they are increasingly important to make sure that you retain customers and build trust with your key stakeholders. And lastly, accurate product footprints and Scope 3 data can drive product innovation and accelerate companies' net zero journeys. So it's very clear that companies need LCAs. However, traditional LCA is far too complex and fully manual, making it extremely time-consuming and expensive. This is why we created Root. Our platform offers a SaaS solution that is scalable, so it's capable of handling thousands of life cycles at once. It's fast, you can see results in minutes, and very importantly, is user-friendly, so people can use our platform without any prior life cycle assessment experience or knowledge. And there are a lot of different benefits of working with Root. Firstly, kind of as mentioned, it's user-friendly. So you can skip the complex LCA process, just upload your available data, and we'll provide full lifecycle assessment insights for all of your products. Secondly, as mentioned, is scalable. So our LCAs don't assess products one by one. Instead, you upload your data and you can get instant insights into your entire product portfolio and on your organization. Root is impact focused, so you don't need to waste time guessing where to focus your efforts. What we do is we screen your business, find the 10% of your business that is driving 90% of your impact, and then you fully focus on that. And lastly, Root enables you to future-proof your business. So stop using financial-based carbon tools. They're not good enough for products. Switch to real-time LCA data, which is fully ISO 14000 compliant. So what does our approach actually look like? Our platform integrates seamlessly with various software solutions, collecting and iterating data to reduce environmental impact. We use machine learning and algorithms to centralize your data and create dynamic LCA dashboards. Ultimately, what this is doing is this is converting complex lifecycle assessment information into simple, easy to understand insights companies can use to drive impact in their companies. And one really important thing to note here is really kind of what the focus of this webinar is on, is that Root creates two types of footprints. Firstly, we create company-wide footprints that show companies' overall carbon and environmental footprint. And we also create product-level footprints, which show the carbon and environmental footprint of each product in a company's portfolio. And we'll be deep diving and really explaining the difference between those two footprints later on in this webinar. And kind of the last thing to really kind of explain here is, what does our typical process of working with our customers look like? Typically, this involves 4 steps. So we start with a call to really set up the client's Root account and draft an action plan with a timeline. The next step is to collect the data. So we'll define the scope of your LCAs, and for your companies, we'll be working with them to help them upload their data onto our platform using our simple data collection modules. We guide our clients through each step of this process. Once all the data has been uploaded onto the platform, behind the scenes, we at Root, we're transforming your product data into impact data, and we are automatically calculating your company and product footprints. And then the last step is the really exciting bit, is using that data to really create impact in your business. So really what this looks like, this can be communicating your impact authentically, identifying hotspots, setting reduction targets, and ultimately driving sustainability performance in your business. So that was just an introduction to who Root is. I can see there's been some questions in the chat. We'll pick those up in the Q&A at the end of the session. So the next section, this is really now focusing on Gijs and I, our conversation is really focusing on what carbon and product footprints are, what is the link between them, and why you need both to create a robust sustainability strategy and future-proof your business. So Gijs, firstly, I think it's great to first understand what's driving the need for both company and product level footprints these days, and why is having both so important?
There's actually 3 things there. Is one for compliance, the second one is more for growth, and the third one is for impact. You need all 3 to make everybody in the company happy. For compliance, for a long time you only needed like the company high level reporting, but right now with the increasing compliance demands, CSRD is getting more strict. People are getting started and see, hey, there's actually quite a lot of reporting gaps if you use financial based data. So there you need more granularity. auditors are going to expect you to have more product level insights, but also with CSDDD, the due diligence directive, and digital product passports that are coming up. There are strong links that LCA will be the methodology to do that. When you talk about growth, there's now significant, if you are a company that sells a lot of products, most of the time you also sell them through different channels. And if you sell them through a different channel, these companies also must report following scope 1, 2, and 3 and the CSRD. So basically their scope 3 is your product. So if you can't deliver them your product, they can't report, and that will create friction. So you need to make them happy basically by delivering product footprints. And lastly is the combination of company and product footprints is very important. Product footprints are needed to actually make a reduction, because otherwise you can't see where the impact is. You need to look underneath the hood of the car, not like high over, hey, it's a car. You need to see what's underneath it. But also you want to see, hey, on which car should I focus? Which part of the car should I focus on? So by having a holistic overview of the entire company, you can see which, and that's what Max asked, which 10% of the company has 90% of the impact. And that's almost always the case. It can be 80-20, something like that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a group of products. It can also be a group of suppliers or production facilities or transport routes. So it's always that something has a higher impact. And then you can focus on that, and then you can deep dive on that. But it's also for data collection important that you can start by screening the data, because it's super difficult to get all the data at once. But it's easier if you say, oh, okay, only this 10%. Okay, then you dive one step into the supply chain, and then you do it again, one step deeper. And then how I see it, so this is basically your emissions, and this is your, how do you say that? The primary score of your data. Over time, you go to net zero, and over time, also your accuracy of your data goes up. And in the end, you're net zero and 100% data accuracy. Hopefully that answered the question a little bit. Back to you, Charlie.
Yes, it definitely does. And Gijs, you mentioned at the beginning that one key driver is around compliance. So what we find typically with clients is sometimes they're trying to report to regulations using product footprints. It would be great to kind of better understand what are some of the key challenges that companies are facing when trying to report to regulations using detailed insights from product footprints.
One more time.
What are some of the challenges companies face when trying to report to regulations using detailed insights from product footprints?
Yes, yeah, the most difficult thing is that basically when you talk about a product, every product is unique. So you need to allocate every time the impact to the product supply chain. And when I was at Philips, we experienced that basically every product was handled in a unique life cycle assessment. And then basically you have to model everything manually. But if there's no automation, no connection between how this data is compiled, if you look at it as a separate project, then every time you replicate the same steps. And what I experienced is that a lot of times I was sometimes going to the same supplier 5 times asking for data for a different product. Whereas if I could have like the whole overview, I would have gone to the supplier once, and the supplier would say, hey, here you have all the information. But you can imagine after the second, third, fourth time, I was getting more friction and it took longer. So therefore, I think that's the most frustrating thing, getting the data and having a clear overview. And by talking the same language as the management systems of these companies, that these stakeholders at your company. So for instance, if you need a bill of material from a procurement manager, they use an ERP system. If they can easily just drop all the ERP data to you, you upload it into a system, and then it translates into an impact, that's very nice. But if you have to do that manually, that's very frustrating. I think that was one of the most frustrating things when I was working at Philips.
So it's very clear on kind of what the key challenges are. So now to kind of better understand the link between the two types of footprints, still on the topic of compliance and reporting, Gijs, how can companies use product footprints for company reporting?
Yes. I think it's first very good to understand why it is so difficult and why nobody has actually come up with a solution. Basically, when you talk about corporate reporting, you talk about a financial year. So you say everything that happens between January 1 and December 31, we report on it. But the difference is with a product is a product has a life cycle. It can happen over 2 months, but it can also happen over 20 years. So how do you account for that? How do you merge that into one? And it's basically, if you look at it like this, if you purchase a new boiler and you put it on a financial bill, you can either say, okay, I put the full amount, like the full 100 euros on my financial bill for this year. But what most companies also do is say, I spread it out over multiple years. That's actually also what LCA does, life cycle assessment. So the biggest challenge here is that you need to actually see how the data points in the end are, how you can convert LCA data into CSRD data, and that's actually quite difficult to do. So that's why we came up with a solution. But this is how you would use it. So I would say lifecycle assessment is the basis to gather granular data, and then you need something, a scalability software. You can't do it without. That's my experience, to actually help you to extrapolate the data into compliance. So product footprints without software, you can never do corporate footprinting, but corporate footprinting without product footprints will not be compliant in the future because they are not good enough, because it's based on estimates.
Very interesting. And kind of just a follow-on question is, so has maybe it'd be good to just kind of explain a little bit on how Root helps simplify that process of converting the product data into data which can be used for reporting, and how it helps not overcomplicate the process for the customer.
Yeah, so basically, if you look at it, if you would actually the sum of all the product life cycles of your company plus some corporate emissions like business travel and commuting and offices, those kind of things, that should be the same. So how we do this is basically our foundation is life cycle assessment, because that's the most difficult one. If you don't start with life cycle assessment, you can never have the granularity. So you need to start there. What we do, we have made a lot of, we base our solution on the product environmental footprint method and the organizational environmental footprint method of the European Commission. There, we help you to make assumptions. One of the examples, I'm not going to explain all the examples, then you should book a demo. But one of the examples is that, let's say you are a company with 30,000 products. Yeah, you don't have 30,000. You don't have time to get 30,000 bill of materials of all these products. How do you do that? So what we then do is we let you make product groups, and let's say you have 50 product groups, and in each product group you choose one product that has perhaps the highest sales volume, and you put a bill of material for that. And let's say that's a water bottle, and the water bottle is 500 grams, and that is perhaps a little much, but let's say 500 grams. And then you upload all your the mass of all the other water bottles in the product category, and then we use the bill of material of the source water bottle to also assume the bill of material for the other water bottles. This is one thing that we scale, and then again, this is an assumption, but you have 50 product categories. If 5 or 10 of those product categories have 90% of the impact, within these categories, we're going to make subcategories. And then within the subcategories, we're going to make subcategories. And this is how we do that. Another thing what we do is, in lifecycle assessment, normally you would address each input, you have to reflect with an emission factor, and then you have to replicate it all the time. But it can be that one material from a supplier occurs in, let's say, 5,000 products. What we do, we extract the unique material supplier. You only have to link that to an environmental impact reference once, to an emission factor, and then it's automatically in a software solution. So yeah, this is one of the things that we do. We do a bunch of other things. We also automatically allocate production impacts using the mass allocation of facilities, but let's leave it at this for now.
Definitely. I think, like you said, if you want to find more information about this, book a demo. We can kind of show you on the platform exactly what this process looks like of converting the product footprints into data, which you can use for reporting. So now that we understand the connection between the link and how to use product footprints for reporting, let's kind of explore the other connections. So how you can use company footprints to create impact in your business. So Gijs, it'd be great to kind of better understand how can businesses use company footprints to create positive impact in their businesses, for example, to create more sustainable products.
Yeah, I would say that the most important thing is that the sum of the product footprints makes the company footprint means something. If you don't have the granularity on the product level, then the company footprint is for one purpose only, that's reporting, to tick the boxes for compliance. So I think it's more or less the company footprint is more, you need the company-wide overview with the product level granularity to make sure you allocate the right resources on the right spots. And that is goes both ways. So it goes when, hey, if your CEO, CFO asks you, where do we need to put resources to make a reduction strategy? Then you can say, hey, these products or these supply chains have the highest impact. We need to innovate here. But if you would not have a company footprint, so we don't have the company-wide overview, then you would basically guess. And if you don't have the complete overview, then you are never making the accurate guess. And I sometimes make a comparison. There is no CFO, no financial director in the world that you ask, hey, where do I need to put my money? And they said, I think there, because that feels good. That's never happened. So you need to address environmental footprints and sustainability the same way. You need to calculate, know where the impact is, and then you can allocate resources. So that's the power of a company footprint, with the sidebar, that side mark of the note, that you need product level granularity to make actual impacts.
Definitely. And kind of just expanding on that a little bit more, it's kind of, yeah, like the purpose of the webinar is to really highlight the need for both type of footprints. Gijs, could you just kind of expand a little bit more on what you're saying just now about the key reasons why companies need both company and product footprints to create robust, holistic sustainability strategies and to make sure there's long-term success in the business?
I think they go hand in hand, because it's to be compliant with all regulations that come up. You need to have a product footprint, a company footprint. That's the starting point. But with all the new regulations coming up, like the CSDDD, that's for due diligence on supply chains. Every product is unique. So then you need the product footprints in combination with the company footprint to actually be compliant. If you go back, if you want to have access to capital, again, they go hand in hand, because banks, investors, even other people, they are going to invest. They're going to put the money on companies that have the highest potential to survive. Which companies are that? Those are companies that actually make a sustainability transition, because they know things are coming. So the more sustainable they are, the better you are in convincing these people that you have sustainability data. So then you need company-wide insights again. You need your company footprint, but the better your product footprints are to support the company footprint, the better the terms. And you need also both for reduction. I've already explained that. And you need product footprints for your entire product portfolio. So that's, again, you need it for your entire company, the product level granularity, if you want to satisfy your stakeholders, retailers, your resellers. So you can see it again. The company footprint is ticking the boxes for now. If you want to make sure that your company is going to survive, you need to have the product level granularity.
And just a follow-up kind of question around that is the key thing that we're finding with our customers is carbon emissions, net zero. They need to start making real progress on their net zero journey. Kind of we've covered a lot of a wide array of topics, but kind of just deep diving into companies' net zero journeys. It'd be great to understand kind of why do companies need both company and product footprint for their net zero journey.
If you don't have insights on your product supply chain, then you can't make reductions, because you can only reduce if you know where the impacts are, if you know where you need to change things. The alternative is that you would simply buy a lot of carbon credits and then you could reduce. But if you don't know where the emissions are, if you're not in contact uh, with your full supply chain, then you can never achieve net zero. And again, you need the complete overview to make a net zero strategy, because otherwise you are leaving things out. So if you truly want to go net zero, you need to map your total company footprint, all operations, all supply chains. Thank you.
Great. Well, all the kind of the questions that we're going to cover in our discussion between Gijs and I now would like to open up the floor to everybody on the call. If anybody has any questions, feel free just to ask Gijs or myself. I can see there's been some questions in the chat. Oh, it was from Max, and you've already kind of covered the question which Max asked. Maybe it'd be good to just kind of expand on that a little bit more on why is it that we see, why does Root do a screening, and why do we find that 10% of the business does generate 90% of the impact?
Yeah, perhaps it's also good to see why we are doing this. So I think the biggest reason why we start with this is that actually the workload sustainability managers have in general, sustainability teams, is just too much. I have done like very granular LCAs from the start. It just takes a lot of time. After one LCA study, it took me 9 months. It was for an MRI system, but in the end, I was also calculating a lot of data that had negligible impact. And I actually knew that when I was collecting the data, but we wanted to have an holistic, scientifically proven LCA study. And that's, of course, very good if you want to publish a paper. But if you want to make an impact as a company, you want to see, hey, I'm doing this to make sure where I can make the most impact, where I can make the most cost-effective reduction strategies, actually. And if you look at it from that perspective, then you want again the holistic overview first. But if you want to do that, yeah, it can take you years to get all the data. So then if you start by screenings, and then I mean, for instance, hey, you have 50 suppliers, so 50 unique supply chains in the supplier there. We can match it then with an average impact of that supplier in a specific region. And then, for instance, 5 of these material suppliers have 90% of the impact. And what you do then is then you can say, okay, for these suppliers, we're going to dive into the supply chain. And then we can give you impact templates. What that means, we can show you, hey, on average, these are the production processes, these are the transport steps, these are the waste streams, these are the input materials. And what you can do then is then you can improve that data. So you can have a conversation with the tier 1 supplier. Then if you have done that, you see, hey, these tier 2 suppliers have highest impact. So this is the constant screening allows you to basically also focus only your very precious resources, the little time that you already have to complete a task, but then you focus it on the high impact areas. And that's our vision on how sustainability should be taken. And the weird thing is that we have been completely fine with financial-based accounting for some time. Luckily now that we are coming back from that. But at the same time, people are super, super, super peculiar about making some assumption in the LCA. And I think to myself, yeah, but that we should make LCA the standard, but we should rephrase it, revolutionize it in a way that businesses can work with it, and that it becomes a decision-making tool rather than a scientific approach. That's to publish papers. So that's my vision, and that's why the 10 and 90% work. Max.
Yeah, thanks, Gijs, Charlie. Very informative. I was just wondering, Gijs, would you say that what you just explained in comparison to other, so there are actually a lot of parties who are offering LCAs in different manners. Would you say that what you just explained is actually the great distinction, the great competitive advantage that you offer from with Root, or is there something else that you haven't mentioned before that sets you apart from your competition?
Yeah, I think it's it becomes almost a sales pitch, but that's okay then. The way we tackle the problem is in traditional LCA solutions, it's basically a different management system. And also the most important thing, there are three things actually that makes our product unique. The first thing is the scalability part. So we are actually making product footprints and company footprints at the same time. There's no company there's not a lot of companies that can do that. There are a few, but this is something that's quite difficult for also the reasons between the different time frames of the reporting structures. The way why we can scale like we do, we replicate the same logic that ERP and PLM, all these enterprise systems use. They normalize data. They put every unique data point as an identifier. And basically all the LCA solutions, they are calculators only, and nothing is normalized. Everything is unique. Shit in, shit out. With us, no, you reuse data. So if you put your product in year one, and the product doesn't change, then you can reuse the same inputs from year one in year five. So that's normalization, and that's also what's allowing us to integrate data seamlessly from these management systems. And that's also why we can do the complete product portfolio once. And then the screening, what I just said. And what it does is this creates stickiness in our product in a way that you can also in the future easily onboard supplier data, because we talk the same language. Everybody talks in ERP language when they buy materials. This is just how it works. They use an identifier that you can reuse. But that's something that allows us for networking effect. But also, you have to imagine that if you are a procurement manager, you're using an ERP system. That's what you do. And then somebody comes along, can you please fill in this questionnaire? Can you please input your data in this system? They don't want to do that. So they're also going to say, and especially if you're a supplier, say, no. But what if you are built around it, and then you say, hey, if you put this number in from now on in your management system, and then just do an export and dump it to us, we take care of the rest for you. Then that procurement manager says, oh, whoa, this is actually super nice, because now I need to do this one little thing, and you give me a lot of information back. Perfect. So that's also, I think, nice. And the last thing is because we link with purchase and sales orders in the company, these systems, we can link it with financial planning. So in the future also, as a sustainability manager, you can clearly go to your C-level people, or those financial directors, or even directors of the company itself, saying, hey, this is my total impact. These are potential reduction strategies. Can we see what's the most cost effective? And then you can also align financial strategy with your sustainability strategy. So this is very shortly, concisely what we do.
Clear, thanks.
Does anybody else have any questions?
So either we were all shy, or I did a very good job in explaining it.
No questions here.
Then, if there are no questions, Charlie.
Luckily, I thought of some questions in case there was no questions from the audience. We've covered most of them, but one thing I think it would be really good to kind of better understand is how does Root manage the challenge of linking very granular product footprints with broader sustainability goals? So, for example, a net zero goal or a biodiversity goal. How does Root help manage that, linking very granular data with those sustainability goals from the product footprints?
Yeah, I think I've covered most of it, but perhaps good from a different angle. So this is not really part of. Perhaps it's nice to explain another thing, but makes the combination of LCA plus and corporate footprinting very interesting. What you just said, biodiversity impacts. All these reporting tools focus on only carbon, and they call it the carbon tunnel vision. It's of course the most urgent thing we need to solve as soon as possible, but at the same time, there are a bunch of other impacts. In LCA, there are potentially 18 different impact indicators, and climate change is just one. You also think about pollution, toxicity, material resources, water use, and indeed ecosystem quality. And by including LCA into the mix, you can use that as well. But by scaling it to the company footprint, you can also use one KPI to quantify your impact on all these different aspects. And then you can, no worries, thank you, Jamie. And then you can build your sustainability strategy around that. So you can actually have concrete numbers, you can model reduction potentials, and then you can also measure it over time, as you can see each year what will happen for a total company footprint. I hope this answers the question, Charlie.
Yes, it definitely does. Cool. Well, if nobody has any other questions, just gonna pause, see if anybody has any more. Nope. So let's wrap up. There's no more questions. Thank you, Gijs, so much for joining this this webinar. And if you have any questions or you would like to have a product demo, then please go onto Root's website and you can book in a product demo with Gijs, and he can really run through and give a much more in-depth explanation of our product. Thank you again all so much for joining this webinar. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day.
No worries. Thank you very much.